Yui is an ordinary girl unsure about her future life and goals until she gets teleported to the gods' realm where she is tasked to teach handsome gods about humanity. It turns out that the gods are all spoiled who just want to get into her pants while Yui tries to win their hearts one by one. However, before any of this, the Greek gods fight with one another while Yui runs towards them to stop the fight. One of the Greek gods, Apollo, undergoes a transformation in which his usual clothes get replaced and his hair turns long. He transforms into his god state and Yui rushes to his side, so he assures her that everything will be alright. He then takes her to the crux of fighting to stop the others. In the present, Yui practices with her katana all by herself and her friends call her to attend the closing ceremony. She tells them that she had decided to practice her swordsmanship every day and they all attend the closing ceremony in which the principal wishes all the second-year students good luck as they move to their third year. Yui heads home with the girls and she informs them that one of her brothers will be taking over the family shrine and that she is not sure what she wants to do in the future since she only does swordsmanship as a hobby. They start to discuss mundane things and Yui then heads to her family shrine where her brothers meet her on the way. She also greets her dad and mom and then runs inside to change into daily clothes. She starts thinking that she should get serious about her life since she has never thought about entrance exams or love life. She prays on the shrine and suddenly feels a presence around her, but just then, someone calls her name. She is then led to another part of the shrine which is shining and she heads inside only to discover a mysterious-looking sword in a box. She touches the sword and an electric current zaps her. The current zaps the whole building and she gets teleported to another place along with the sword, which all seems very strange to her. The sword shrinks itself to become a necklace and she wonders whether she was kidnapped from the storehouse. She wanders outside to get some phone service and to figure out where she even is. She even starts wondering whether she has traveled through time, but the idea seems stupid to her and just then a guy appears behind her. He comments that it's unfortunate for her to get tangled up in their game, and when she steps forward to ask him about her location, he roughly tells her to stay away since he will bring misery on her. He walks away and when she tries chasing him she ends up falling back due to a rabbit that crosses her path. She ends up following the rabbit through the halls to a room where she comes across another haughty dude and she asks him where she is. He gives her a vague answer and she tells him that she woke up in another room but she doesn't know her location. Another haughty dude wanders inside to tell the other guy something and he notices Yui, so he starts asking her who she is. He comes up to her and demands to know her identity by making her step back. The lavender guy tells him that Yui doesn't know where she is either and they both begin to leave the room. Yui tries questioning them but the rude guy shuts her up before walking away. She keeps wandering around the building and she ends up on the roof somehow, which reveals acres of beautiful gardens and scenery spread around the building. She wonders where she is for the 100th time and suddenly a flying horse comes at her. The huge horse slowly gets near her, so she runs away in fear because she cannot figure out why there is a mythical creature around her. She runs into another guy with long red hair who asks her whether she has seen a blonde guy with long hair. Yui doesn't know who he is talking about, so he also walks away without answering any of her questions. She keeps wandering around and she comes across the blonde guy with very long hair who is surrounded by chirping words. He greets her nicely and she informs him that his friend was earlier looking for him. She then asks him where she is and he asks her in return where she has been teleported from some other place. She realizes that they have both arrived from another place and he reveals that he was talking to a friend when he suddenly lost consciousness. He ends up tripping on his butt and he comments that he trips often so Yui doesn't have to worry about him. He ends up tripping again on her, due to which they both fall on some flowers and he comments that she has beautiful eyes as he leans on her. He then pulls her up and introduces himself as Balder, so she also gives her introduction. He keeps holding her hand as he compliments her smooth skin and his red hair friend arrives. He flicks his hand away and whispers in his ear that their Greek companions have also arrived. Yui asks him to tell her what he means, but he instead tells her to find it out herself since he doesn't feel like telling anything to her. He throws her a candy which releases a cloud of smoke and they both disappear. Yui then hears a voice calling her name and she gets teleported in front of a door. A voice tells her to cross the door and she enters inside to step into a dark room. She sees a man sitting on a pristine chair and he tells her to come forward. She walks forward and he tells her that he was the one who teleported her to the building. He then reveals that he is actually the god of heaven Zeus, which shocks her, and he asks her whether she believes him. He transforms himself into a child and he suggests conjuring some electricity to prove his identity to her, but she stops him. She thinks about how she has always been close to gods and he reveals that he has brought her to make her play a part in his plan. He explains that the connection between humans and gods is weakening in recent times, due to which he has gathered some of the gods who struggle with their connection with humanity in order to teach them a thing or two about humanity. He reveals that she has already met 5 of the gods, and he then shows her different gods who consist of Norse gods, Japanese gods, and even Greek gods. He announces that he has erected the Academy of Gods to teach the gods about their connection with the humans and that she will be their teacher. She refuses his plan since she doesn't want to be forced into doing something, and he tells her that she cannot leave the place till she has fulfilled his plans. He doesn't listen to her, so she runs outside, and he tells his assistant that the Sword of Heavens has chosen her, which makes her a right choice. Yui runs outside and she wonders what she should do, but just then she meets another god who warmly greets her. He introduces himself as the Greek god Apollo and then suddenly pulls her up against his body. He leans on her and then kisses her cheek while she stumbles back. He tells her that he is just greeting her by being polite, and noticing her nervousness he realizes that she must be from another country. He apologizes to her and they reconcile, after which he asks her what's wrong since she seems pretty down. She tells him how Zeus asked her to teach at the Gods' Academy, but she doesn't even want to be at the place, and Apollo assures her that he is with her and that he is also unaware of the place. He declares that they will find out the truth by themselves, and he whistles loudly, which leads to a Pegasus coming towards them. He assures her that the Pegasus won't hurt them, and she then strokes it as well. She also gives her introduction, but he just calls her lovely and asks her to take a ride with him. One of the Norse gods, Balder, also watches them as they take the flight towards the sky, and Apollo keeps assuring her that everything will be alright. They fly high among the birds and see that they are actually on a floating island. Afterwards, Apollo takes her back inside the academy, where Zeus welcomes all of the students, and the Japanese god of sea Takeru curses him for bringing all of them together without their consent. Zeus calls out all of the gods one by one and orders them that they will learn all about humans in order to revive the ancient link between the gods and humanity. The Norse god of fire Loki taunts him for taking all the gods so lightly, and Takeru asks him to return him and his brother to their home. Both Takeru and Loki attack Zeus, and he uses his wand to propel them backwards with his lightning. He reminds them that they can destroy the academy with their powers, and he then uses a magic which makes different kinds of jewelry accessories appear on every god's body. The boys realize that they cannot take the jewelry items off, and Zeus declares that the shackles are meant to seal their divine powers. Loki and Takeru try using their powers, but they fail miserably, and Zeus tells all the boys that they have to study at the academy and that their shackles will remove themselves when they graduate. He then conjures a huge sphere and tells the others that they have 1 year to understand human nature, which will fill the sphere up, but if they fail to understand humanity in 1 year, they will forever be trapped in the garden. The gods start to protest, and even Hades speaks out that Zeus is being tyrannical, but Zeus doesn't budge from his original decision. He introduces everyone to their instructor Thoth, who is the Egyptian god of knowledge, and then conjures dozens of fake students who are actually all spirits. He then tells Yui that her goal is to help all the gods graduate, and Thoth tells the students that they have to gather in the auditorium the next morning to prepare for the afternoon entrance ceremony. He dismisses all the students and Yui follows him, so he tells her that Zeus has actually modeled the academy after a human school. She thinks that Zeus is being too pushy, so he pushes her against the wall like a typical teenager and reminds her that Zeus is thinking about the future of humanity and the gods. He also tells her that after the graduation she can return to the same time that she came from, and he then shows her to her room, where he instructs her to reach out to him if she wants anything. She finds her uniform inside her room, and a doll named Melissa greets her. Melissa reveals that she was made by Zeus and that she is technically her senior in the garden. She keeps yapping about being her senior, so Yui thanks her for all the help. Meanwhile, Takeru whines for the dozenth time about escaping from the garden, and his brother, who is the Japanese god of moon Tsukuyomi, reminds him that they have to graduate first. All the other gods take a bath in the hot springs, where Apollo comments that studying humans is interesting, while some other gods find it too much of a task. Balder appears in a sleeping suit, and the others comment that he seems to be fitting in nicely. The Norse god Thor wonders whether it's their destiny to study humans, and Yui also keeps thinking about the whole situation till she falls asleep. The next morning she vows to attend and graduate the academy in order to get back home as soon as possible, and she goes to the main hall where no one is present. Balder then appears and trips on his feet right off the bat. She welcomes him and he comments that it's his first time attending school. He asks her about riding with Apollo, and she informs him that she met Apollo for the first time, which makes him comment that she met him first. Apollo and Tsukuyomi appear as well, and they share that no one else is coming since they still haven't accepted Zeus' ordeal. They then wonder what happens at the entrance ceremony, so Yui explains to them that they are all supposed to assemble at the entrance ceremony and wish the best for the upcoming year. The gods think that some kind of ritual will take place at the entrance ceremony, or they have to make some kind of contract. Tsukuyomi even asks whether they need some kind of sacrifice, so Yui assures all of them that the entrance ceremony isn't some scary ritual. Apollo suggests that they should all split up to convince the other students to join them, and the rest of them agree. They all head to different directions to convince their fellows, and Yui comes across Takeru sitting under a tree. She wakes him up only to find that someone has drawn on his face, and he starts to become aggressive when she mentions something is on his face. She then shows him his face on her mobile and he starts suspecting her, but suddenly Loki jumps out from the tree and declares that he made drawings on his face because he likes having fun. He then makes a run for it, so Takeru chases after him. Yui then comes across Hades and she tries to talk to him, but he just gloomily tells her to stay back from him. She also tries convincing Thor and he tells her that he isn't coming if Loki isn't coming. Apollo brings Dionysus with him, who has agreed to join them, and the five of them make all arrangements for the entrance ceremony, which is due soon. They arrange the chairs and finally the ceremony begins, in which Zeus calls out each student's name one by one. He then calls Apollo forward as the student representative, and Apollo declares on the stage that they will definitely all graduate at the end of year. He believes that there must be a purpose behind Zeus Academy, and he vows to reach the end with everyone, which makes Yui realize that she is not alone since all the gods have been pushed into this unknown world as well. The ceremony ends and Zeus tells Thoth that everything is beginning now. The gods attend their first class, in which Thoth teaches them about human anatomy, and he starts going on and on about the types of muscles and how they are involved in the movement of bodies. Yui thinks that the information is useless while Apollo seems awfully interested in the lecture, and Tsukuyomi writes down detailed notes. Dionysus dozes off during the class, but Thoth ignores his behavior and Balder tries to wake him up before he gets any kind of scolding. He ends up tripping on his feet, due to which Apollo rushes to his side, and Dionysus also wakes up in a shock, thinking some monsters are attacking them due to the ruckus. The class spirits also get disturbed and everyone starts talking about the monsters, so Thoth takes his books and leaves the class because he has had enough of everyone. Yui runs after him to convince him to come back, and he tells her that all the students are taking it as a joke since they are only napping and playing. He cautions her that the year will end before the students can learn anything about humanity, and suddenly the weather outside starts to change. The clouds go away and it becomes sunny, while Thoth notices that summer has arrived. He concludes that Zeus must have changed the weather and that the summer vacations are starting, so she should gather all the students during the summer vacations. Yui then informs her classmates about the latest task, and they ask her all sorts of questions about the summer vacations. She proposes conducting some kind of summer vacation related activity to appeal to the other students that school can be fun, and she tells the others that they can have some kind of seaside party as well. She explains the concept to them, and Apollo reveals that he has been reading a lot on human activities, due to which he has discovered that going to the beach is a fun idea. Everyone jumps on board for this idea, and Apollo reveals that Hades is actually his uncle, so he will invite him. Dionysus proposes to invite the Norse gods, and everyone starts to make arrangements as Yui also orders food and swimsuits from the school store. She tells everything to Melissa, including the fact that all the stuff will get delivered by the next day, after which they will all head out to the beach. She also orders a sword which gets delivered, and later she starts practicing with her sword. She realizes that swordplay is helping her relax, and Apollo also walks up to her. He asks her whether she is really alright since she was brought to the garden all by herself, and she reveals that she is getting used to it, even though she still doesn't agree with Zeus' methods. He reveals that Zeus is actually his father and that he has always tried to force his methods, so Yui assures her that they will somehow convince other students to study with them during their activity. Apollo then declares that he loves her and that he loves her strength and optimism. The next day, all the gods appear for the activity and they all head out together towards the beach on foot. Some of the gods begin to whine about getting tired since they are not used to human bodies, and Yui reveals that they have to walk all the way to the beach. She explains that the journey is also important, and somehow they proceed with their journey. Yui notices that Hades is very behind from the usual crowd, so she tries to tell him to move with them, and he tells her to stay away from him, otherwise he will bring misery on the whole group. The group passes by some waterfall and they walk through the beautiful scenery, after which they finally arrive at the beach. Takeru's mood immediately becomes better to see the sea, and even Hades walks towards the water. Apollo then starts to strip because he likes showing off, and he reveals swimming trunks underneath. He tells Yui that he has read in a book that humans wear trunks underneath their normal clothes, and the rest of the boys also strip their clothes to reveal swimming trunks underneath. Yui feels glad to know that they are all having fun, and she is about to change as well when the weather suddenly changes and it becomes cold. The leaves turn yellow and summer changes into autumn in a second. Hades comments that he has brought misery on everyone, and Apollo assures him that Zeus is just changing weather to mess with them. He declares to everyone else that they cannot let a changed weather mess with their spirits, and he and Tsukuyomi both head inside the water to have fun. The temperature decreases even more and Apollo gets a cold in an instant. Later they all huddle near the fire inside a resort, and the other gods start to whine that they are not having fun. They start making plans to head back one by one, so Apollo declares that he will definitely find something to do with them. He storms off and Yui follows him to find him. She finds him using magic on a bowl of water and he keeps chanting the word flower. He then tells her that he has the gift of prophecy, although he cannot use it properly with the shackles, and that he is going to find some flower to make all the other gods have fun in the seaside school. Yui gets an idea after listening to all the talk about flowers, and just then Tsukuyomi and Balder arrive to tell them that Loki and Thor are leaving because they don't want to listen to him as a fellow student. Yui declares that she is nominating Apollo as the student council president, and she explains to the others that the student council is an organization that devises the school's functions and the rules. She mentions that sometimes the president can be decided by nominations too, and she tells the others to relay the instruction from Apollo that they should wait. Meanwhile, she and Apollo head to the school store on the Pegasus to buy something while the other students wait for them to return. Loki keeps whining like a brat, and he even suggests that maybe Apollo is working so hard to make the seaside school work because he is Zeus' son and is working for him secretly. Hades denies his theory and argues that Apollo has a love purer than anyone else. Loki still decides to leave, and when he heads out he comes across Apollo and Yui, who apologize to him for being so late. Suddenly the fireworks start to light up the sky and the rest of the gods also appear at the balcony to watch them. Yui reveals that the lights are called fireworks, which the humans have invented, and the gods start to enjoy the whole scenery. They even play around with the firecrackers till late at night, and Loki tells Yui that he won't mind attending the classes if she can entertain him again. Takeru shares the same feeling, and later they all head back to their school. Yui and Apollo discuss that they are glad their idea worked, and Yui stays behind to admire some flowers. Apollo thinks that she has gotten lost, so he becomes scared and starts frantically searching for her. He finds her and hugs her tightly, so she asks him whether he is alright, and he pretends that nothing has happened. They head back to the school while Yui keeps wondering why he acted like a teenage brat all of a sudden. Afterwards, Yui tells the others about the different kinds of clubs at a school and how clubs are used to establish strong ties with the others. Apollo likes her idea, and she asks the other boys whether there is any club activity they would like to try. Balder mentions that he wants to try playing tennis ball, and Apollo also wants to play the same sport, but he specifically wants to play hard tennis while Balder wants to play soft tennis because it sounds all nice and gay. They both discuss how they can play together, and Dionysus mentions that he wants to try out gardening. Loki and Thor tease her that they want to try going to the home club, and Hades reveals that he likes astronomy club but he won't be joining it. He comments that he won't be participating in any group club activities and then leaves the class. Yui informs Thoth that some students are not interested in clubs, particularly Hades, and he scolds her for asking him about something so trivial. He tells her to find a solution of her own, and she wonders what she should do. Melissa gives her useless advice as always, and later she comes across Hades sitting outside looking at the stars. He points out the evening star Venus and then heads to do some stargazing, so Yui points out that he didn't seem to be doing any club activity before. He corrects her that he just doesn't want to associate himself with anyone else because he likes being a shy tsundere, and she argues that she still wants to join him, so he roughly tells her that he will bring misery on her. She still walks after him, and they arrive at the plain area to stargaze properly. Hades begins to take out his equipment, and just then the sky gets covered with lots of clouds. It begins to rain, and Yui wonders whether Zeus is interfering with them, but Hades tells her that it's due to his personal misfortune. He tells her to wait under the cover and then heads back to the dorms in the rain, so Yui runs after him as the attention seeker. She searches for him in the forest and even walks near a stream where she trips and falls in the water. She starts to get swept by the strong currents, so Hades jumps after her and saves her. After he takes her out, he reminds her that she fell in the water because she approached him, and he scolds her not to ever approach him. She returns back to her room gloomily and decides to keep pursuing him no matter what happens. The next day, Dionysus enjoys gardening on his own while dozens of spirit chicks surround Balder at the tennis court. Apollo practices hardball tennis on his own, and he offers Tsukuyomi and Takeru to join him too, but they just walk away from him. Yui approaches Hades once again and asks him to let her join him in stargazing, but he reminds her for the 100th time that he will bring misfortune on her. She keeps insisting, and he asks her whether she isn't scared of being miserable, so she tells him that she still wants to join him. He reluctantly tells her to do whatever she wants, and just then Balder throws his tennis ball at her. Up next, Apollo also throws his ball at her, and Dionysus ends up wetting her clothes with his water hose, which makes her wonder whether Hades' company is making her luck worse. She changes into her gym clothes and joins Loki and Thor, who are taking a walk. They come across Balder and Apollo, who apologize to her once again, and she informs them about her predicament with Hades. Apollo tells her that Hades is actually the king of the underworld, so he brings all kinds of disasters, and they all wonder whether they can do anything for him. Dionysus comments that it's Hades' fate and Yui still wants to do something good for him, so Apollo and Dionysus tell her that Hades actually has a favorite food which brings him happiness. They both blurt out different foods, which are rice cakes and strawberries, and Yui then arranges both of the foods for him. Hades comes across some rice cakes and he asks her whether she is only trying to win him over with the cakes, but she insists that rice cakes are only a gift. He accepts her gift and she makes tea for him while he starts yapping about the true meaning of the rice cakes. He then finds that there are strawberries inside the rice cakes which delight him a lot, and he cannot believe his luck as he starts eating rice cakes. Yui points out that he likes rice cakes a lot and he thanks her profusely as he eats all of them. After he is done, she comments that he finally felt happiness rather than misfortune, and he starts to unbutton his shirt. She looks away from him, so he tells her to look at him, and she sees that there is a huge tattoo on his chest. He reveals that the tattoo is actually a curse of the dead who have fallen into the underworld, and he explains that he is hated by many souls who regret their deaths, due to which all of their frustration and regret piles up to generate a great curse on his body. He tells her that he can only bring misfortune on the people around him, due to which she should never approach him. He even declares, like an attention-seeking princess, that he can never be happy in life. Later, Yui shares the whole lore with Melissa as well, who advises her to stay away from Hades since his misfortune will cause him even more pain once he gets to know happiness. She doesn't think that Melissa's advice is right, and she keeps thinking that Hades is pushing everyone away from him since he doesn't want to hurt anyone. She gathers all the guys, and the next time Hades heads for his stargazing, they all join him. They tell him that they will keep following him even if he refuses them, and he takes them to the plain hill where they all look at the stars. He then starts to take out his equipment, but it suddenly starts to rain again just like last time, which makes Hades gloomy. The boys strip out of their clothes and they declare that they can still have fun despite the rain. Yui notices that the rain isn't touching Balder since nature loves him a lot, and they boys mess around with each other as they play in rain. Yui tells Hades that they can turn their misfortune into happiness, and that she felt very happy when she was saved by him, so he isn't surrounded by misfortune all the time. He tells her to stop yapping, and he admits that he is surrounded by his loved ones who care about him. The boys surround him to make him strip as well, but the rain suddenly stops and the stars appear once again. Hades starts to look at his misfortune from a completely new angle, and he thanks Yui for her help. Some day later, after the classes are over, Loki and Thor head outside for their going home club activities, and Balder asks Takeru whether he has thought of joining any club. Takeru declares that he won't join any club, so Apollo starts to preach to him that he should try out something new. Takeru walks away after ignoring him while the others discuss how clubs are more fun than regular classes. Thoth scolds Yui later on for not convincing Takeru, and he reminds her that all the other gods are doing some activities. He tells her that Zeus has ordered her to convince Takeru to do some activity somehow, and she starts thinking of ideas. She then comes across Takeru, who is swinging a wood by himself, and she asks him whether he likes swordsmanship since it's also her hobby. He blows her off and tells her to mind her own business. She then asks him to join any club, even if it's the going home club, and he tells her to stop pretending to be so concerned for him, even though she only wants everyone to graduate for her own sake since she wants to go home as well. He doesn't listen to her and instead walks away. She returns to her own room and starts whining about the whole situation since Takeru refused to listen to her no matter what she does. Melissa cheers her on and she goes out to practice her own swordsmanship, which helps her relax. Takeru spots her doing practice and he feels surprised to see an actual sword in her hands. She tells him about her art of sword drawing, and he thinks that she is just using words to lure him. She asks him to join a club once again, and she tries convincing him that she wants to graduate with everyone else, but she also wants to overcome this hurdle with everyone together. He asks her to defeat him in swordsmanship, after which he will agree to join a club, and he proposes that she cannot ever bring the topic up in case she loses. She accepts the duel and they both head inside, where they take a bamboo stick to fight against each other. The match begins and Yui lunges at him with her stick, but he smoothly blocks all of her attacks. He fights back and speedily attacks her, due to which she panics and closes her eyes. He doesn't hit her, instead he compliments her for not running away, and he announces that the match is postponed till she can train her body even more since she is very weak now. He offers her to run with him every morning and night, and she gladly accepts. Soon they both start training together, where Yui runs with him day and night, and they also practice swordsmanship together. She even falls asleep in class due to a rigorous schedule, and the guys watch as Takeru starts spending more and more time with her. Even Thoth observes that Takeru is finally partaking in extracurricular activities, and Yui struggles to run in the beginning, but her stamina starts to get better. She even has tea with Takeru once despite his tsundere attitude, and their training continues day after day. One day it starts to rain and Yui stays inside, but she thinks that Takeru may be running without her, so she heads outside to locate him. She ends up finding him in the forest and she calls out to him while Takeru feels shocked to see her in the stormy rain since he thinks she is a pretty frail human. He notices that she is standing on the edge of a cliff, so he yells at her to back away, and just then the cliff's portion gives away, due to which Yui starts to fall down. He jumps after her and he recalls an incident from his life in which a girl had fallen in the same way. His divine powers become activated and he manages to save her in time. He assures her that everything is alright, and suddenly they both get summoned to Zeus' court, where he announces that Takeru has committed a big offense by breaking his shackles and activating his divine powers. He raises him in the air and puts a shackle on his ankle, after which he puts him into a cage. Takeru struggles to get out and Zeus declares that he will be punished for destroying a part of his garden. He suspends him from the school and announces that the suspension will last till he can repent and acknowledge his mistakes. The other gods also run inside and Yui informs them about what happened. Zeus announces that he will let the others graduate with Takeru in case he fails to apologize, and Loki comments that they should all flunk out this way. Zeus points out that anyone who gets expelled will spend his whole life as a statue, and he then releases Takeru while he walks away. Takeru storms off and Tsukuyumi doesn't know what to do even though they are fellow Japanese gods. Yui runs after him and apologizes to him for bringing him into such a mess. He thinks that it's his fault and she decides to talk to Zeus once more, but he just comments that no one trusts him. Yui declares that she trusts him and that she won't let anyone else misunderstand him. Takeru walks away and Yui wonders what she should do, but just then Tsukuyumi approaches her. He tells her that another goddess fell from a cliff when they were both young and that the goddess had taken care of Takeru all his life, but in the end he was wrongfully blamed for pushing her down the cliff even though he tried telling them that he wasn't at fault. Yui feels very upset to think that Takeru had to bear the loss of his loved one along with all the accusations, and meanwhile Takeru also whines about the whole situation as he punches a tree. Zeus discusses with Thoth about the latest situation, that the garden will become very unstable due to the gods' divine energies and that Takeru may get expelled since he isn't the type of person who can apologize. Just then Takeru barges inside and he is about to apologize when Yui also runs inside and tells him not to apologize. She thinks that he hasn't done anything wrong and she tells Zeus that Takeru was only trying to save her. She narrates the whole lore to him and other gods also rush inside. They plead for Takeru's case as well, but Zeus simply tells them to leave. Yui points out that Zeus is the only one who doesn't understand humans and that recovering from a mistake is a very human trait. Hades also observes that Zeus must have predicted this outcome, and Zeus then lets Takeru go rather than punishing him. They all leave the room and Takeru thanks Yui for all her help. He calls her strong and then proceeds to tease her by making fun of her name. The next morning, everyone arrives at the school only to find a huge crowd in front of the gates, and Loki immediately comments that they should get a day off since they cannot get inside. Tsukuyumi tells the gang that Thoth has told him to enforce discipline on the students, due to which there is a crowd and he sees Hades sneaking inside, so he stops him and asks him to show his bag. Hades ends up dropping some rice cakes and he argues that he brought rice cakes for his lunch, but Tsukuyumi doesn't believe him and confiscates the rice cakes. Loki also tries to head inside and he gets stopped too. Tsukuyumi asks him to reveal the inside of his pockets and Loki then throws down a bunch of cards and games and candies. Up next, Tsukuyumi asks Yui to step forward for an inspection and he notices that she doesn't have any contraband. He then suddenly reaches out to touch her skirt and the other boys stop him before he acts like a certified creep. They tell him that he cannot go around touching girls' skirts randomly, and he explains that he was just trying to check the length between the skirt's hem and her knees. He suddenly becomes dizzy and collapses while Takeru rushes to his side. They all take him to the infirmary where he reveals that he was on duty since 5 o'clock since he wanted to catch any students who would arrive early in the morning. Takeru reveals that he has also been staying up the night for moon gazing, and Yui concludes that his sleeplessness has caught up to him. The bell starts to ring, so Tsukuyumi gets up to head to class and the others try to convince him that he should rest. He thinks that he cannot skip his classes since he already failed in his duty as a discipline officer. Just then Thoth arrives and calls him a useless loser for failing in his duty. He taunts him that he cannot graduate this way, and Tsukuyumi vows to make the moon viewing as a success. Later, Tsukuyumi wonders what he is doing so wrong that he cannot even graduate, while Yui tries to cheer him up. Loki proposes that he is missing love from his life and he takes his advice seriously, so he starts asking him more questions about love. Loki comments that he is missing romantic love from his life and he reveals lovers' rings from his pocket, which he hurriedly puts on Yui and Tsukuyumi's fingers. The rings bring both of them closer, and when Apollo and Takeru try to push them apart they get electrocuted. Loki reveals that the lovers' rings join two people at all times and Yui tries to take it off, but she gets electrocuted as well. A string of students get electrocuted in a chain reaction and Yui apologizes to them while Balder requests Loki to take the rings off. He explains that the rings cannot be taken off till both people understand each other very well, and Tsukuyumi gladly accepts his new mission. Loki teases him that he needs to kiss Yui first as a part of his new mission, and Tsukuyumi tells Yui to kiss him without even knowing what it means. He starts to lean on her, so the other boys jump between them and get electrocuted as a result. Later they all take their class, in which they request Thoth to let them take the class in their joined state. During the class, Yui's eraser falls on the floor, but when she bends down to pick it up, she pulls Tsukuyumi with her, due to which they both fall down together. Thoth scolds Yui and asks her to come inside, so she and Tsukuyumi both join him outside. They inform their teacher about the latest situation, and he tells them to clean their mess on their own. Tsukuyumi declares that he will definitely fulfill his mission, and Yui offers to help him out in his preparation for moon viewing, but he just tells her to watch his back. He reveals a love magazine that Loki gave him to read, which contains tips on romance and which says that ladies like a hardworking man. Later he builds wooden benches, and he makes some mistakes as well. He then asks Yui whether her heart is pounding and that the love magazine's tips don't seem to be working so much. The rest of the boys keep stalking all of their movements, and the couple then heads to the kitchen, where Tsukuyumi decides to make dumplings. He tells Yui that it's his first time making them, and she offers to help him out, but he states that he has done a lot of research. He keeps messing up, so Yui pushes him aside and starts to make dumplings to help him out. He also starts cooking dumplings, and she notices that he seems very focused on his task, which makes her wonder why he is so serious about his missions. Her stomach starts to grumble, and he feeds her one of the dumplings as he apologizes to her for ignoring her. He then asks her whether her heart is pounding yet, and she in return feeds him a dumpling as well, because he hasn't eaten anything for lunch. The other boys feel jealous to see this, and Tsukuyumi's rabbit hops towards him, so Takeru barely manages to stop him. The boys lose sight of the couple, and meanwhile Yui and Tsukuyumi collect pampas grass for the moon site event. They head back to school, and Yui trips on the way, so Tsukuyumi holds her hand to help her out. She wonders whether he is getting his smooth moves from his book, and asks him whether he went to moon viewing events often before coming to the garden. He reveals that his main job as a moon god was to gaze at the moon, and that it's going to be the first time to gaze at the moon as a part of the school function. Yui hopes that they will enjoy the school function, and he comments that the function doesn't have to be enjoyable to him since he only wants to fulfill his mission. He explains that fulfilling his mission gives value to his existence, and his life would have no value without such missions. Yui motivates him to think outside the box, and she argues that he can spend his life without worrying about such missions, but he doesn't understand her logic. She reveals that she had a lot of fun with him when they were preparing for the function, so he should enjoy the things around him as well. Afterwards the boys attend the moon viewing function, and they enjoy different kinds of dumplings. Loki even pranks one of them by switching the wasabi-flavored dumpling with a sweet one, and they all have fun. Tsukuyumi and Yui remain attached as they gaze at the moon together, and he tells her that he still doesn't understand the logic behind having fun, but he still likes gazing at the moon with all of his friends more than anything else. Yui feels the same, and suddenly the ring connection breaks. Loki declares that they must have felt a heartfelt connection, and Tsukuyumi feels tricked since Loki had previously told him to become a couple to break the ring connection. Dionysus chases after Loki while the other boys ask them about the ring connection and whether they have really become a couple, which they keep denying. Winter arrives at the garden, and Loki builds a snowman with Thor while Takeru heads out for a run. Loki throws a snowball at him, and they both get into a fight as he hits a snowball back at him. Even Hades gets hit by a snowball, even though he is just lazing around. Yui tries reaching for a book at the library, and Balder retrieves the book in her stead. They both discuss the changed weather, and suddenly a horde of students run up to them to surround Balder. They start asking him random questions because he is pretty famous among the students, and Yui gets pushed out of the circle. The students even start arguing with each other, so Yui sees an opening and makes Balder run away with her. He seems worried for her, so he keeps asking her whether she is alright, and she recalls that Balder himself cannot get hurt by a lot of things. He explains that his mother loved him so much when he was born that she made contracts with all sorts of things in nature so that they wouldn't hurt him. As a result, all such things avoid him completely, and he tells her that he can only hurt himself if he trips himself. She recalls how he tripped when they met for the first time, and he even comments that her attitude has remained the same around him even though he is the god of light who affects everyone around him. He keeps yapping about such things, and Loki comes across the both of them talking. Later Yui pitches an idea to the boys that they should have a Christmas market and have a Christmas party since it's the winter season. She shows them pictures of an actual Christmas market, which makes them excited, and they decide to prepare for such an event. Balder proposes to set up the booths in the inner courtyard, and they all like his idea, while Apollo thinks that there should be something explosive in the whole event. He suggests that they can burn the Christmas tree like they do in some human regions at the end of the night, but Yui fully rejects his idea. The boys wonder what kind of centerpiece they should have and they decide to focus on the booths first. Apollo suggests that they should play rock paper scissors to decide the group to make booths, but Yui thinks that the groups should be divided by the god's nation of origins. Yui gets grouped with Takeru and Tsukuyomi and the others spread the news while Balder somehow remains lost in thoughts. Later she tells Balder that she has placed the order for her booth and he asks her why she wants to separate the two of them since he wants to remain at her side forever. He tells her that he is obsessed with her and wants to spend all his time with her, but she keeps distancing herself, due to which she now has to dine with him every day as a form of punishment. He starts to drag her with him and both Takeru and Tsukuyomi appear to discuss their booth with her. Balder lies to them that Yui has to go with him to assist their teacher, so they leave without her. He then tries to take her to have dinner with him forcibly and Loki appears between them. He asks Balder to have dinner with him instead and Balder informs him that he is going to have dinner with Yui from now on. Loki reveals that he had prepared his favorite barbecue just for his sake, and since Balder can't refuse his offer, he invites Yui to dine with the both of them together. He drags her with him without even listening to her reply and they all have barbecue together, in which Loki feeds Balder plates of meat while he gives Yui only some vegetables. Balder then feeds her with his own hand and Loki cannot believe this since Balder never shares his meat. He demands to know whether Yui is using some kind of divine power to lure Balder to her side, and the others tell him that Yui is actually a human. He cannot believe this since he never got the memo, and they all tell him that Yui is present in the garden to represent humanity. He keeps whining about the fact that she is a human and he thinks that he should keep her away from Balder even more now, considering she is only a peasant human. Later Yui is preparing the Christmas market booth with her friends when Balder asks to join her and Loki interrupts the both of them by pestering Balder to join him instead. Afterwards he keeps appearing whenever Balder is with Yui and tries to get in their way by distracting Balder or spending more time with him. His antics continue and one time Yui overhears Balder confronting him. He asks Loki why he is being so cruel to Yui and Loki insists that no one cares about her since is a mere human. He tells Loki to not disappoint him so much and Loki starts to walk away from him, so Yui decides to follow him. Thor stops her and he tells her that Balder, Loki and he have always been close since they were children, and that Balder and Loki were especially close since they have opposite personalities. Loki demands to know from Balder why Yui is so important to him and he replies that she is a very special human. In the past, Loki and Balder were deeply attached to each other and the three of the gods even promised each other that they would always stay together. In the present, Thor comments that even he cannot interrupt the bond between Loki and Balder, and just then Balder comes to ask Yui about dinner. He then drags her with him to have dinner with him while Loki watches the whole scene with jealousy. Later Yui is busy with her booth preparation when Loki approaches her and forcibly carries her stuff to help her out. He apologizes to her for acting out and even comments that it must be hard for her to live among gods, so she starts yapping endlessly that it was initially hard for her but now she enjoys spending time with everyone. He grows tired of it and he pulls her to a side where he tells her that he also wants to create special memories with her. He suggestively tells her that they should make these memories till they graduate, and Yui gets the wrong idea as she thinks that Loki is being sincere about graduating. She tells him that she is really happy to hear that he wants to graduate and that she has always wanted to become his friend. Balder watches the two of them from the building and he starts to become jealous because he is a hormonal teenager. Later Apollo makes a speech to everyone to launch the Christmas market event, and meanwhile Balder confronts Yui as he asks her what she feels about him. Apollo lights up the whole market and just then Balder leans in to kiss Yui because he wants to make her his without anyone coming in between them. Loki pulls him away from her and he yells that Balder only belongs to him. Balder tells him not to get in his way and Loki in return asks him to stop making him suffer so much. Loki then tells Yui to leave, so she runs away and reaches her booth where they are serving customers. Takeru notices that she is spacing out a lot, so he reminds her to stay alert for their customers, and just then Thoth arrives at their booth. He tells them to pack all their red bean soup for him, and when Yui questions why he has so much money, he informs her that he collected all the money from the students through his own booth. They give him all the soup and he walks away after telling them to prepare the next batch for him. Yui notices that Balder is walking towards their booth with a group of people who keep fawning over him, and he tells them to let him walk to the booth by himself. He reaches the Japanese booth and finds that Yui is gone from there. Meanwhile Yui runs away because she doesn't want to face him yet, and she comes across Dionysus and Hades' stall where they are selling flowers. Hades mentions that Dionysus grew the flowers in his gardening club, while Dionysus points out that it was Hades' idea to sell the flowers because he wants to sell grape wine instead. Apollo also urges her to come take a look at his stall, and his stall contains sculpted statues of Santa Claus which look frightening and too realistic. He tries to convince them that it's a good idea by saying that the statues are actually candles, and he burns a few of them. The Santa Claus candles melt to show an even more horrendous sight, and he brings out a candle reindeer which he built himself. Yui runs away in horror, and she sees that Thoth is selling a mummy doll to one of the students by forcing him to buy it for 5 coins even when the student doesn't want to. He scolds the student so much that the student has no choice left but to buy the doll, and he also tells Yui to leave as she is interfering with business. He reveals that the mummy dolls are just Egyptian mummies replicas and that he needs to earn more money to buy more red bean soup from their stall. Meanwhile, Balder craps his pants because he has mommy issues and cannot find Yui anywhere. Yui instead comes across Loki's stall where he and Thor are selling candies, and he tries convincing Thor to sound more cheerful to lure customers in. Thor notices Yui, so he calls her over, and Loki scolds him for calling Yui since he doesn't want to deal with her. Thor gets fed up with the tension and instruction, so he hands over his spot to Yui and coolly walks away. She then starts to sell candy with Loki, and he points out that she doesn't have to listen to Thor by taking his place. He asks her whether Balder came by her booth, and he then advises her to stay away from him. She thinks that she is coming between them, and she assures him that she only wants to spend more time with all of them as her classmates. She asks him his reason for being so protective over Balder, and he doesn't give her a proper answer. Instead, he tells her to stay away from Balder, otherwise they both will get hurt. He reveals that he cannot say anything more, and just then Balder spots the two of them having the discussion. He wrongly assumes that Loki likes her a lot, due to which he seems so attached to her, and he declares that he won't let him have her. He pulls Yui to his side and uses a prank candy which releases smoke around them. He then runs away with her, and she tells him to stop running. He shouts in anger that she doesn't understand him, and after throwing a tantrum he apologizes to her for shouting at her. He starts going on an endless rant that everyone gets drawn to him because he is the god of light, but she is different since she scolds him when he does bad, praises him when he does good, and always speaks truthfully to him. He pulls her near him, but she pushes him away, and just then Loki comes running at them. Balder pulls Yui close to him and starts going berserk all of a sudden. He starts emitting light, and Loki pulls Yui towards him as Balder turns into Pikachu and starts to release bursts of electricity that destroy their surroundings. Loki walks towards him and starts to remind him that he doesn't want to do this because Yui is special to him and because they made a promise to always stay together. He walks inside his circle of energy and hugs him, after which Balder collapses in his arms. Later he takes Balder to the infirmary where he tells Yui that everyone loves Balder because of his powers only, but no one truly loves him, due to which Balder always feels alone, but meeting Yui made him realize that someone can actually love him despite his clinginess and cringe behavior. He reveals that Balder's emotions turn rampant from time to time, and he ends up hurting the others around him as well as himself, due to which he wanted to separate the two of them. Yui realizes that he was just trying to protect her and that Balder must have felt really alone in his life. The other boys gather together to light the sky lanterns which Apollo has arranged for them, and Apollo suggests that they should release the lanterns into the sky while shouting Merry Christmas. Loki shares his sob story that the blood of a giant race called Jotnar runs in his veins, due to which he is hated by many gods, and that he spent his life in solitude all by himself when he was a child. Soon Balder found him, and his straightforward attitude melted his heart, after which the both of them along with Thor started spending all their time together. One time a god tried to kill him, and Balder saved him by going rampant. He later failed to remember anything, and Loki assured him that everything is alright and that they will stay together, even though he was also injured due to his unstable attacks. Balder wakes up and notices that Loki is wounded, but Loki assures him that he only got wounded due to his pranks. He can't recall what happened, so he asks him whether he loves Yui, and Loki assures him that he doesn't love her. Afterwards Yui brings water for him, and Loki flexes to her that Balder belongs to him. Balder apologizes to them for rushing so much into things and for acting like a jealous girlfriend, which makes Yui happy to think that they can finally graduate as friends. Later all of them head to the lake for the sky lanterns, and they all release their lanterns into the sky. Balder holds Yui's hands and Loki also holds her hands. Afterwards Thor tries to talk to Loki, and Loki tells him not to worry since he will definitely kill Balder with his own hands when the time is right. Yui has a vision in which she sees Apollo promising a human girl that his love will never change. She reminds him that humans and gods can never be together, and he gives her box as a gift and as a reminder of his love. He explains that she can see the future if she opens the box, and they have similar powers now. She becomes really happy and they proceed to hug. Yui wakes up in her bed and wonders why she had a dream about Apollo. The next morning Thoth announces to the class that 6 months have passed since the start of the academy, due to which the academy will hold an event. He sees Apollo sleeping, so he wakes him up and starts scolding him. Apollo argues that he kept dreaming the whole night, due to which he couldn't sleep properly, and the others urge Thoth to reveal the details of the event. He declares that they will have their midterm exams in 3 days, and he wishes them good luck for the preparation. After he is gone, Yui whines about the upcoming exams and the others also comment that they don't remember anything about their classes. The boys ask Apollo if he can predict the examination content through his powers, but he is also useless at this task. Balder thinks that they can all pass if they study together, and Tsukuyomi then presents his detailed notes which he has been making all this time. He reveals that he doesn't understand their content, and Dionysus shows everyone his notes which are completely empty. Apollo falls asleep again, so Hades wakes him up and Yui reveals that she has ordered a bunch of snacks for their study get-together. Apollo offers to help her out and they both head to the store to get the snacks. They both discuss how they have become friends with the others since the start of the academy and how they spend such a happy time at the academy. Apollo suddenly stops and comments that he should never be happy because he has committed a sin which can never be forgiven. Yui tries to talk to him, but he just brushes the topic aside and walks away. She then sees another vision in which the girl from Apollo's vision opens the future box because she wishes to spend her life with Apollo, but suddenly she goes into shock. In the present, Apollo sees that Yui isn't following him, so he runs back to look for her, and meanwhile Yui sees that Apollo's girl falls on her knees because she cannot believe the future that she just foresaw. Apollo runs to Yui's side and hugs her from behind. He begins whining that she cannot leave him and that she has to stay with him forever. He hugs her too tight and doesn't let her go, so the other boys rush to his side and separate the both of them. They scold Apollo for hurting her, and she recalls that he behaved in the same way during their seaside event. Later, everyone studies together for midterm exams while Apollo remains distant and lost in thoughts. He heads back to his room and Hades comments that they need to keep an eye on him for the time being. Yui has another vision in which she sees that Apollo is searching for his lover Cassandra, and he finds her drowned in a lake, due to which he cries a lot in grief. She wakes up in her bed and wonders what's happening to her. She also sees Apollo taking a walk towards the forest in the middle of the night, so she starts to follow him. She chases after him and sees that he is walking in the water towards Cassandra, who is floating on the water. He apologizes to her since he believes it was his fault that she died, and Yui rushes into the water to stop him. Cassandra's image vanishes and Apollo collapses in her arms. Dionysus and Hades rush to her side and they take Apollo to his room to rest. They both tell Yui that Cassandra gave her life because she was very hopeless, after which Apollo cried for days, and Hades comments that she never appeared in the underworld after her death. He believes that Cassandra is still attached to this world because she harbors a grudge against Apollo, due to which she still haunts him, and he tells Yui to be careful as well since Cassandra's ghost may harm her too. Apollo wakes up suddenly and starts yelling that he killed Cassandra. He screams out loud and starts to release a dark energy which turns his ring black and even turns the magical spherical muddy. The boys try to hold him down while Yui rushes to Zeus to ask him for help. He reveals that the ring reflects the heart of the wearer and that Apollo's ring turned black because his heart is covered by a great shadow. He reveals that Apollo started blaming himself after Cassandra's death, due to which he started to believe that he must never find happiness and that he brought him to the garden to save him, otherwise his heart will forever remain in darkness. Yui begs him to save Apollo and he answers that he cannot save him, otherwise he would have done it already. She runs away from him and on the way Thoth stops her. He reminds her that there is no way to stop Apollo, but she believes that she has to try somehow. She runs away from him while he thinks that humans are big fools. Apollo wakes up and starts to walk outside. Yui comes across Cassandra in her ghost form and she asks her to set Apollo free and to stop hating him anymore. Cassandra answers that her words don't reach Apollo anymore, and she ends up hurting him the more she tries to speak. She declares that she wants to save him and then asks Yui to help her out by lending her strength as a human being. Apollo heads outside where he comes across Yui, but he only sees Cassandra inside her and she stops him from saying anything. She reveals that Apollo will live on forever while she will die alone, and that she couldn't bear to see such a future, due to which she took her own life. She later understood that death was going to part them anyway, even if they were both humans, and that she should have treasured her limited time with him. He calls himself a fool because he tried to give her divine powers, but in the end she ended up taking her life because of his decision. She tells him to be happy and that she is already happy with the memories of the times they have spent together. Apollo starts to cry and she then leaves Yui's body as she bids goodbye to all of them. She vanishes and Hades realizes that she was actually watching over Apollo rather than harming him. Apollo's ring turns back to normal and it then breaks apart. The next day he shows everyone that his ring is gone, which means he has technically graduated, and they all think that their time must be near as well. Suddenly they all recall that they have their midterm exams coming up, which freaks them out since everybody had forgotten about it. Sometime later, Thoth announces to the class that they did well in their exams, due to which Zeus is going to announce a reward for them. He announces that they have to arrange a play in 3 days as a reward, and they all start grumbling about it because there is not much time left. Apollo seems the most excited to arrange the play and he assures the others that it will work out somehow. Thoth tells them to work hard and later everyone discusses what they should do. Apollo proposes that they should play out the Cinderella story, but the other gods don't know what he is talking about, and Hades even comments that the story must be about cremated remains. Yui tells the boys that Cinderella is a famous human fairy tale and Balder tells her to become Cinderella, so Apollo announces that he will be the prince. The others notice that he seems really hyped up and he tells them that the prince gets to marry Cinderella at the end. They all get the shock of their life and Balder comments that he is best suited to become the prince, but Apollo starts arguing with him. Loki interrupts them to say that he wants to become the prince instead, and Takeru thinks that a strong god like himself should be the prince instead. The boys start to argue with one another because they believe that they should become the prince, and Apollo starts whining because it was his idea originally to become the prince. Even Hades volunteers, but no one listens to his pathetic voice, and Yui proposes that they should act on another play. They reject her idea and start discussing the prince role once again, so Yui decides to draw lots to determine each character. She participates herself as well, and all of them then draw their lot. Apollo gets to become the prince while Yui gets selected as the princess, and both Takeru and Tsukuyomi turn out to be Cinderella's sister. Balder gets to become the magician, and the rest of the gods also get NPC roles. Apollo announces that they should start practicing for the official play, and a few days later the day of the play arrives. Yui asks Thoth to narrate the drama and he gladly accepts the job, although he pretends that it's bothersome. Zeus also arrives to watch the play, and the drama begins with Yui telling her father Dionysus to get better soon. Her dad tells her that he can't go on any longer and then passes away, leaving her with her stepsister. Yui continues to work under the supervision of her evil stepsisters, and one day she tells Tsukuyomi, her stepsister, that she isn't going to the evening ball with them. Takeru, who is her other stepsister, reminds Tsukuyomi that Cinderella doesn't have any dress and she has only filthy clothes, so of course she cannot go to the ball. Takeru even messes up his dialogue in the middle, so Yui corrects him smoothly, and the sisters then tell her to clean the house properly. She gets left behind and she confides in her only friend, who is Thor dressed up as the mouse, that she wants to go to the ball as well. Suddenly Balder appears as the magician in front of her, but out of nowhere Thoth spills coffee on the script, due to which he stops narrating. The script gets messed up and he decides to improvise it even though he doesn't know the story. He narrates that a woman appears in front of Cinderella and Balder then transforms her into a princess-like lady with a ball dress. His narration is a bit tacky, but the guys seem to enjoy it a bit more, and Balder tells her to return home before midnight. Loki, who is actually Cinderella's servant, thinks that his role is too NPC and decides to mess up the play a little. Meanwhile, Dionysus is carrying juice bottles to everyone when he realizes that he is forgetting to bring glasses. He puts down the box of juice bottles on the way and heads back to bring glasses. Just then a shy deity named Anubis appears and takes a sip of the juice. He finds the juice really yummy, so he runs away with all the bottles, and Dionysus returns to find that all the bottles are gone. On the stage, Prince Apollo is begging Yui not to go back to her home, but she runs away before midnight, and he wonders whether he can ever find her with the help of the shoe that she left behind for him. Thoth continues to improvise the narration, and Hades, who is the prince's father, asks Apollo whether he really wants to find Cinderella. Apollo declares that he loves Cinderella, and so the king tells his forces to search for the girl who can wear the glass slipper. Yui hurriedly goes to the stage to jump into the play, and the play proceeds as Prince Apollo arrives at Cinderella's house to search for his love. His servant hands him a box which bursts to release a cloud of smoke, and Loki appears out of nowhere. He apprehends Yui and tells him that whoever gets to make her wear the glass slipper is the actual prince. The others tell him not to ruin the play, but soon they start to think that they should be the one to make Yui wear the slipper. Even Takeru and Tsukuyomi step forward to fight for the slipper despite being dressed as Yui's sisters, and Hades also throws away his cloak to enter the battle. Yui tells the boys to calm down, but Loki tells her to shut up because it's the men's battle. Suddenly Dionysus chases the juice thief onto the stage, who is conveniently disguised in rags, and they end up running into the guys, due to which some of the guys get knocked down while Yui also barely saves herself. The juice thief Anubis also gets the glass slipper from Takeru, and Dionysus keeps chasing after him. A juice bottle gets thrown at Hades too, who falls down, and Dionysus finally manages to catch Anubis, but he knocks him down and runs away after throwing the glass slipper at Yui's foot. She thinks that the play is done for, and the guys get up one by one. She then trips on the juice, due to which the glass slipper slips from her hand and breaks. Suddenly Thoth speaks out loud that the end of the glass slipper brought peace, and everyone continued to live happily together. Everyone cheers for them since they think that the play is over, and the group feels relieved as well. Later they all discuss the play and how Loki tried to sabotage everything, while Dionysus keeps whining about the juice that he made with his own hands. Balder wonders what to have for dinner, even though everyone knows that he only likes eating meat, and Tsukuyomi comments that they will all be separated after their graduation. Yui points out that people continue to meet after getting graduated as well, and she notices that everyone seems really upset, so she tells them that they should keep enjoying their time together. They all begin to head inside and suddenly Balder collapses to the ground. He gets sent to the infirmary and Loki feels extremely frustrated for some reason. After a while, Yui and some of the boys wonder why Balder collapsed, and they assume that it might be because he was tired from the play. Takeru reminds them that he also collapsed during the Christmas festival, and Yui recalls how Loki told her about Balder's emotional instability. She gets worried and suddenly decides to go check up on him again. Apollo chases after her with a basket of apples and mentions that Balder might be hungry, so he wants to give him the apples. The two head towards the infirmary and overhear Thor and Loki discussing something. Thor suggests that they should tell everyone about Balder's condition, but Loki objects that it will not change anything. Thor insists, but Loki tells him to stop and declares that he will kill Balder himself. Apollo drops the basket of apples due to the sudden shock and the two get exposed. Apollo tries to awkwardly point out that Loki must be joking, and Loki asks them if they heard him say that he will kill Balder. Yui says that he must be joking about it, and Loki reveals that he had lied to Yui before about Balder's unstable emotions. He explains that light and darkness always exist together, which is why Balder is both the god of light and the god of destruction. On the other side, Thoth tells Zeus that he sent Balder to the academy in hope that he might be able to understand the human heart and his destructive side never comes out. At the same time, Yui asks Loki if Balder will end up destroying the garden, so Loki explains that he will destroy all the worlds when he turns into the god of destruction. She refuses to believe that a person as nice as Balder could ever do something like that, so Loki explains that Balder's real personality gets suppressed when the power of destruction comes out, and reminds her that she has seen his destructive side once too. He reveals that Balder's destructive powers are getting stronger and they only have a little bit of time left before he fully turns into the god of destruction. He also mentions that Balder himself does not know anything about this whole situation because he does not remember anything whenever he loses control. Yui continues acting cringe about how there must be some other way to save Balder, and on the other side, Zeus tells Thoth that Balder would have been able to suppress his destructive side if he would have understood the human heart, but it's too late for that now. Simultaneously, Loki tells Yui that killing Balder is the only option left now, but Apollo points out that Balder is immortal and no one can hurt him. Thor explains that Balder's mother made all the creations promise not to hurt her son, but the mistletoe tree, which was young at that time, managed to escape the vow. Loki takes out a mistletoe sword and explains that it's the only thing that can kill Balder. He says that he will kill Balder with his own hands before he destroys the world, and Yui tries to convince him not to do that as Balder is his closest friend. He explains that Balder is very important to him, which is why he cannot let him do anything that he would never actually want to do, and says that Balder saved him many times, so it's now his turn to save Balder. Yui does not know when to shut up, so she almost starts yapping again, but Loki interrupts her and declares that he will save Balder by killing him. The next day, Balder complains about how they are not letting him leave the infirmary, and Loki consoles him by feeding him apples, and the rest of the boys also arrive to check up on him. They give him gifts to cheer him up, and Loki asks Yui and Apollo if they told everyone else too. The two answer that the boys came by themselves, and Balder asks the three why they are acting weird. Apollo tells him that he misses him a lot, and Balder suddenly suggests that they should hold another event before their graduation. Apollo agrees with him, and Balder suggests a meat-eating competition before complaining about how he wants to rejoin them soon. The next day, Yui encounters Apollo as she is going on her way to see Balder, and he pats her head, which causes her to have a mental breakdown. She starts crying about how it's very unfair to Loki that he has to kill the person whom he loves the most just to protect him, and she wishes that she had tried harder in helping Balder understand the human heart. Apollo consoles her by saying that they won't let anything happen to Balder or Loki as they are their precious friends, and she questions if they have enough time to make Balder understand the human heart. He tells her to have faith in the gods, which will give them strength, and the rest of the boys also arrive before revealing that Apollo told them everything. They decide that they will save Balder together, and they tease Apollo, which makes Yui laugh. She feels happy, but Thor does not want that cringe vibe, and he suddenly interrupts the moment by revealing that Loki and Balder have disappeared. They all head out in different directions to find them, and meanwhile on the other side, Loki guides Balder through the forest. He tells Balder that he has prepared a surprise for him, and they arrive at a cliff with an amazing view. Loki states that he wanted to show him this view, and Balder tells him that it's amazing. Balder accidentally trips, so Loki helps him up, which makes Balder recall how Loki always used to get wounded whenever he lost his memories. He mentions that he knows that Loki is trying to protect him, and he puts Loki's sword on his chest before telling him to do it. Thor also appears, but Balder tells him not to stop Loki, and he explains that he has realized why he would always lose his memories. He apologizes to Loki for hurting him every time he lost control, and Loki tells him to feel angry because he tried to solve everything by killing him. He asks Balder not to act nice as it will make it even harder for him to kill him, and Balder actually starts roasting the life out of him. Loki falls down on his knees in desperation and says that he cannot kill Balder. He says that he can't help but hope that Yui and the boys might be able to help save Balder somehow. He declares that he cannot kill Balder, and Thor consoles his crying butt. Loki and Thor's shackles suddenly break off, which means that they have understood the human heart, and Balder steps back as he apologizes to Loki once again for always making him bear everything. He thanks Thor for always taking care of them, and Loki asks him what he is trying to do. Balder reminds him that mistletoe is not the only thing that can harm him and that he can also harm himself. They realize that he is about to take his life, so they tell him to stop, but he does not listen and he jumps off the cliff. Loki and Thor jump after him into the water, but before they can reach him, he starts to shine bright and releases a sharp light into the sky. The sky turns dark and Zeus declares that Balder has turned into the god of destruction. He releases his own powers as well, and Balder begins to destroy pieces of the garden while Zeus starts to mend the pieces because he wants to keep him in the garden. Thor and Loki get washed on the shore and they realize that the god of destruction awakened before Balder's life could come to an end. Balder starts to release long-range attacks on different parts of the island that destroy the island, and Loki whines about the fact that they should have all spent their time together having fun rather than worry about him, since his awakening was bound to happen. They notice that Balder is actually resisting and struggling in his new form, so they think that maybe they can save him if they can just bring him out of the light. Both Loki and Thor transform into their divine form to stop Balder, and Apollo assures Yui that they will save Balder and that they will all graduate together. He transforms into his divine form as well and then bends down on his knee to kiss her hand because bagging the girl is really crucial at this stage. He then heads to the main scene while Loki and Thor both try to approach Balder, but he keeps throwing attacks at them. They block all of his attacks and Loki manages to throw one of his attacks at him as well. Apollo joins them in midair and they tell him that they need to bring Balder out of the light to save him. Just then Balder attacks all of them and his attack hits the school building, which causes a great panic among the spirits. They all start to run rampantly, so Dionysus and Hades begin to help them evacuate safely, and Hades also asks Zeus to help them out. Zeus tells them to leave the spirits alone since the spirits will return to their original form even if they get hurt, but the other gods believe that they still need to take care of them since they have studied alongside them. They request Zeus to help them out again and Balder attacks one of the school towers. The inside of the building starts to crumble and a huge rock falls on some students, but Hades jumps in the middle and saves them from being crushed by the rock. He tells the students to make a run for it and Zeus finally agrees to help them out. He turns the spirits back into their original forms, due to which all the students disappear and they start to head to the spirit world. Yui thanks them for their company and Hades and Dionysus' shackles break as well. They transform into their divine form and head out to save Balder. Melissa also rushes to Yui's side and starts whining about the whole situation, but Yui believes that the boys will definitely save Balder. Apollo shoots an arrow at Balder which creates an opening for them to go through, and he shoots another arrow which reveals Balder in the middle of the light. Loki rushes towards him and almost manages to reach him. Balder also reaches out to touch him, but at the last second, Loki gets blown away as the lightning tree gets sealed and he gets thrown on the ground. He wonders whether they can even do something and Balder attacks him once again, but this time Takeru and Tsukito save him by pushing him away from the attack site. Loki starts yapping about how nothing can be done, but Takeru scolds him that they also want to save Balder. Tsukito joins him and they both convince him that they are with him and that they believe in him. Loki gets up again and Takeru's and Tsukito's shackles break as well. Yui notices that Zeus' sphere is filling up with light, which means that someone's shackles must have worn off, and her sword necklace starts to glow as well. She recalls that Thoth had told her that the sword will guide her way one day, so she grabs it and makes a run for it. The sphere falls down and she touches it, which makes it suddenly disappear. The powers of the sphere flow into her sword and she realizes that she can feel the spirits of all the gods who desperately want to save Balder. She decides to meet Balder herself, but just then a boulder falls on her and Thoth saves her by blocking the boulder with his own body. He tells her to go fulfill her mission and she runs outside while Melissa also cheers her on. Loki shoots fire at Balder's lightning tree with all his might and he keeps shooting till an opening is created. He then charges inside even though the others tell him not to head inside alone. Yui arrives at the fighting site and Loki reaches inside to find Balder standing coolly at a place which looks like an altar. Yui whines to Apollo that Loki is trying to sacrifice himself for Balder's sake, and he tells her that he already knows what she is trying to achieve through her sword. He takes her with him and they both head towards Balder on the Pegasus. The other gods tell them that they understand their motive as well and that they will try to carve out a path for them. The two of them head straight towards Balder while the rest of the boys block Balder's attacks with their powers. When they get close to him, the boys all launch their attacks at the same site, which manages to create an opening for them, and Apollo and Yui rush inside just before the opening closes on them. They both arrive inside to find Loki on his knees, and Yui's necklace transforms into a real sword. She reveals that the sword represents the human heart that all the gods have been studying at the academy, and that he can use the sword to convey his feelings to Balder. Loki starts yapping about how he never liked her in the beginning, but he has always been a huge liar. He kisses her forehead because impressing a babe is the first and foremost duty, and then runs towards Balder with the sword. He manages to stab him, and Balder wakes up to find himself submerged in water. He swims towards the surface because he thinks that he needs to join the others, and wakes up in real life as well. He comments to Loki that he has saved him once again, and Loki tells him that he always causes him trouble. Balder's shackles break, and all of a sudden the garden starts to collapse. They realize that even Zeus' powers cannot hold the garden up, and they all decide to protect Yui, at least by gathering all their remaining powers to send her back to her world. They start to conjure their powers, and Yui argues with them that she wants to graduate together with them and wants to spend more time with them. All of them tell her to live a good life one by one, and Apollo tells her that he loves her. She then gets teleported to the human world, where she wakes up on the same day when she had found the sword. She rushes inside the small building where she had first found the sword, but she doesn't find anything there this time. A lot of time passes by, and she keeps remembering everyone as her daily life progresses. One day, she is returning home from her school when she finds all the gods standing in front of her shrine, and they tell her to teach them about humanity once again. That's all for today. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more anime recaps.